All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Halen House's Healing Focused video series and podcasts. I'm Maria Cookson and Cheryl Mills, and we are part of Halen House. I wanted to let you know today in these healing focused videos that we are wanting to share some of the options of different tools and resources that are available from practitioners in the holistic and complementary communities in Central Oregon or in your area. And please check those out if you are watching in another location. And you are also welcome to check out our website, which is www.halenhouse.org, for a link to today's speaker with her website and information, and also upcoming podcasts and videos, excuse me. For those that may be new to Halen House or just returning, I want to give a quick little info. Halen House is a nonprofit in Central Oregon whose mission is healing the root cause and effects of trauma, creating health, resilience, and wholeness. Halen House wants to help you learn about the wide variety of opportunities to heal and to build resiliency from trauma and its effects. And we want to do this by providing tools, education, resources, and support for those in our communities here in Central Oregon, but also in the broader broader world, excuse me. As you may or may not know, trauma does affect everyone, and it affects us all in different areas. We know that there are 6 core areas that it can affect. Our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, nutritional, and social. And we want to let people know that there are opportunities through holistic and complementary and other array of medicines and practitioners, and there's ways to get help. So this is part of what these videos will be about. So welcome everyone, and I will pass it to Cheryl.
Thank you, Maria. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Halen House's Healing Focus. Today, we have Carol Petherbridge from Freedom Regenerative Medicine in Bend, Oregon. And welcome, Carol, to the broadcast today. But before we get started, I just want to mention that some of the material in these programs can be triggering. So it's really important that you take care of yourself first. Should you need immediate assistance at some point, please call the National Helpline. It's toll-free 24/7 at 800-662-4357, or the crisis text line, which is free 24/7 in the United States and Canada. You can text HOME, HOME, to 741-741, or there is also a suicide and crisis line at 988. So please take advantage of those if you feel that you need some immediate assistance. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Carol and just ask you, Carol, to start, if you could describe your company and how you, what services or products that you offer, and maybe how you got started.
Sure. Well, first, thank you for inviting me, Maria and Cheryl. This is really a wonderful opportunity to share with all of you. I'm a naturopathic physician, so Petherbridge is a long name, so I usually just have my patients call me Dr. Carol because I don't need to, make them, but you navigated that really well. So thank you. I'm a naturopathic physician. I've been in practice in the state of Oregon for about 36 years. And I did my schooling at the National College in Portland. And I've done women's healthcare as a primary focus throughout my entire career. And I would say I just want to share that as a naturopathic doctor, our understanding or philosophy about the body is that the body can heal itself if we give it support. And that includes, when I say the body, I include the mind, body, spirit, the whole entity, if you will. And I have worked with women, men, children as well throughout my career with a full range of concerns. My current practice located in Bend, I've been here for about 3 years, and that's Freedom Regenerative Medicine. And after all these years of working with all kinds of patients with a variety of conditions, I decided to focus on women's pelvic care, pelvic wellness, especially urinary incontinence, and urinary wellness, as well as intimacy. So that's my, I've taken a very broad approach and I've narrowed what I'm helping my patients with. So I'm really excited to work with women and to have this opportunity to share with you, because I have walked a journey myself that has involved some traumatic events, traumatic losses, traumatic relationships. And so I've become well-versed in the concepts and ideas about how trauma affects our bodies, our wellness in many ways. So, even though women may be coming to me for physical situations or physical indications, I always have my radar, my sensitivity out about how can I help this person find the most comfort in the environment. So I would say that regenerative medicine is a natural approach that is giving women options for how to deal with these often embarrassing and very quality of life destructive processes. Having incontinence or not feeling comfortable in your intimate life impacts our function in so many levels. And often women may go to their practitioner and they have a very short visit to cover maybe lots of concerns or topics. And it can take quite a while for a woman to feel like she can bring these issues to light, because there can be shame, embarrassment, concern about being ignored or minimized. These concerns are sometimes not addressed full on. So when a woman comes to see me, they're able to learn about alternatives that are non-surgical and non-pharmaceutical for how to address bladder leakage, and say maybe they're menopausal and their tissues have changed and they don't have comfort, or there's pain with intimacy, etc. So it takes a lot of courage for a woman to overcome that barrier, if you will, to bring these conversations up. So I've really focused on creating a very open, caring, compassionate, safe enough environment that we can start to have these conversations. That's really my goal, is to help women start the conversation. That's the resistance that we need to overcome first, is starting to seek help or ask for help, or even just information. So maybe a sister or a mother, your grandmother or aunt or girlfriend that's struggling with something that they don't know who else to go to. I really see myself as a gatekeeper. With my 36 years of experience, I know the alternative field really well, and I can often help pair people with good therapies for their particular concern. And I always feel that if I'm not able to help my patient who's made that effort to overcome their resistance and they show up in my office, I'm going to make sure I help them find the right source and the right help. I'm not sure I really answered your question, but there we go.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You described it very well.
Yeah.
I just have one little thing that maybe could use some clarification. Can you explain really what regenerative means when you say?
Yeah, and it's kind of a buzzword right now. So from my perspective, regenerative simply means the body healing itself. And if we look back over thousands of years, we look back to Chinese medicine that has a system that's been in place for centuries. It's really about supporting the body to regenerate and repair and create a better function. Regenerative medicine also in sort of our new technological world can mean things like stem cells and things that repair and regenerate the spinal column and help people with to be able to walk again. I mean, we are starting into that era of medicine where we're able to repair and regenerate things that before were not, fixable, if you will. But I personally use that word because I am using a technology called PRP, platelet-rich plasma, which is using the patient's own blood sample and collecting those regenerative and restorative messages and growth factors and using that in the tissues around the bladder to help repair and create better function, to help the muscles to function better and to help blood vessels and collagen and all the cellular function. So I would say also regenerative medicine gets down to that cellular level, that deeper level. And, we're used to our modern medical field really as more of a surgical and pharmaceutical process where, you go to see your primary care doctor, you might have some labs and be diagnosed, and often the treatment is a medication, or if the condition gets severe enough, you have surgery. And thankfully, we have all these other options in between, which is where, generally alternative medicine comes in, where nourishing the body or changing a lifestyle pattern or, taking herbs or nutrients that can help you sleep better, and that improves your immune function and your cognitive function, et cetera. That's one example. So there's a lot of adjunct and support available in the alternative field, which is very exciting. And there are, aspects of the modern medicine embracing some of those ideas and not embracing them. So often, I think something I'd like to point out to your listeners is that often we might not find the solution for our particular problem in the standard medical process. And I really encourage people to start looking outside of that. For example, meditation or breathing, or even, things like EMDR. And, these are therapies that can help people balance their nervous system and their emotions and their function. Those are all things that have just come alongside the medical field in the last few decades, and are slowly gaining acceptance in the understanding of we can't fix everything with our usual methods. Like often we need to explore things that maybe we haven't looked at before, and color therapy, art therapy, and like what you do, Maria. Those are all things that before maybe were not taken seriously, but there's so much benefit. And so in my field, when I'm working with women with incontinence and sexual function, intimate function, if they have pursued their standard options, usually they're told they could have a surgery or a pharmaceutical, or if they're lucky, they're referred to a pelvic floor physical therapist, which is a good place to start at looking at what's happening. But the therapies that I have really work on the tissue level, the cellular level, helping to repair and regenerate the tissues in the pelvic region to get better function. And that's just not possible with a surgery or a drug or pelvic therapy. So I offer a piece of the option, a piece of the pie, if you will. And I'm a holistic practitioner, so I do really think it's important, especially for women that have experienced any trauma of all sorts, just that often those emotions are really tied to, or I would even say like held in the pelvic region, if you will. And that can be a very delicate process to work with and to support. And I just want to encourage women that finding someone they can trust to start asking questions and gaining information. Like I often have women, I'll give you an example. So if a woman came to see me and says, well, I think I'm urinating during intimacy. I don't know what's happening. I have all this fluid coming out. Well, there's this whole new aspect of research where they've identified prostate-like tissue around the urethra in women. I jokingly say, we just found it 10, 15 years ago. Obviously it's been there, but it hasn't been studied. So women are learning that, that's a normal physiologic response for some women, and it's actually not urine that's being released. It's a fluid, much like what's released in the male from the prostate. So being able to get a little bit of information to help women start to learn about their bodies and feel more comfortable and to be educated and engaged and feel supported, that's my jam. That's what I'm about. And I've focused on incontinence and sexual wellness because it changes a woman's quality of life. If you are having to wear pads, or you're looking for the restroom all the time, or you're not sure if you can go shopping or get in the car and drive for an hour because your bladder function is going to interfere with that, like that's dramatic. That can have a dramatic impact on the quality of a woman's life. And as women, I think we culturally tend to minimize or suffer or put up with things longer than we need to. For example, I'm going to pop on my screen here and read this to you. On average, women wait 6.5 years from the first time they experience symptoms until they obtain a diagnosis for their bladder control problems. This is from the National Continence Association. And honestly, it's much greater than that. Like I saw a woman in my office this week who has waited 38 years. She's had some form of incontinence for 38 years. And that's just a lot of suffering that is unnecessary. And, as a naturopath, I offer regenerative therapies that are safe and they're effective, and they don't come with risk factors and side effects. So that's, again, really important to me, is to offer women options and education. It starts with education, really.
Yeah, no, and thank you for that, because this is your jam, as you were saying, because
Yeah.
Because I think that it's so important, and so many women for so many years, we've been told just to, it's in our head, or we just have to deal, or it's old age, or oh, you're making a big deal of it. And like you said, the quality of somebody's life can be dramatically affected by this, and then it snowballs, because if you are fearing that you may not be able to go somewhere, or you're essentially kind of watching the clock, or feeling like, oh, it's going to happen. That continues that fear and all that our brain is in. So
Yes.
how to make changes so that that doesn't have to happen, and to know that, and whether it's old age, or you've had different pregnancies, or other health issues or traumas, and lifestyle. I mean, our bodies are very complicated, and it's, to have that knowledge, I think is very important. So thank you for being able to, bring this to women, because I'm sure with your patients and clients that has been made a huge difference to them, that they can, have a life again, or see all these changes and get their body back in balance.
I had a woman this week who came to see me after a procedure I did about a month ago. She's in her 70s and was really embarrassed and didn't want to leave her home and wasn't comfortable being social and didn't want to have to worry where the restroom was. And she needs assistance to walk. And so having that urgency, needing to get up and use the restroom and not being physically, real stable on her feet. I mean, it was more than just a quality of life issue. It was also, potentially dangerous for her to have this urge and the need to jump up and try to use the restroom frequently. And she came to see me this week, and with one procedure, she had a really great result. And she said to me, I feel like a human being again. I mean, just imagine that sense of feeling. I think she really felt like almost like an animal, in a sense of like she had no control over her body, and she didn't trust her body, and she didn't like her body, and she was worried she had an odor and people would judge her. And, if you look at that from that perspective, I mean, it's a huge impact. And so really, it really touches my heart and makes me more passionate and excited about helping and reaching patients that need support. And like I say, I'm a great doorway of like starting the conversation and helping women find a direction. Sometimes I will refer patients to a pelvic physical therapist, or, I had one woman who I was really sure that her incontinence issue was related to a traumatic incident as a young woman. And as we talked more about it, I actually referred her to someone for TRE, and, that was a great fit for her. So that's that piece that alternative medicine, having a more holistic or natural approach, we can recognize that there can be other factors. It's not always, a direct physical issue. And I'd also like to bring up a little bit the challenges or the stressors that can affect women, or maybe I should say the myths that are out there, that, you're getting older, everybody pees in their pants when they get old. Incontinence is not a normal consequence of aging. It's a common consequence, but it's not normal. You don't have to deal with that. So, now there's a 77-year-old woman out there who doesn't have to get up as many times at night to urinate, and she is starting to go out and spend time with her family. And, that's so important. I also work with women that are having challenges with their intimacy. Maybe I've seen women that have never really had full sexual satisfaction, or they're with their partner. Maybe they've been married for 30 years and suddenly their, intimate life has evaporated because now their tissues have changed and it's painful. And literally there can be like a miraculous change in about 2 to 3 weeks with the right therapy, or a bit of topical hormone cream, or I've had women come back and say, wow, I'm so excited, I have my husband back again and he is so happy, and we get to share intimacy again. And then I also look out on that spectrum of women who have sexual trauma on top of that. Like if you have that layer on top of a physiologic issue, it just becomes that much more challenging and complex. So that woman might be brave enough to say to her GYN or practitioner, gee, I'm having some discomfort. But there's, as we know, as we've had a lot of, information. We've studied trauma, so we know the layers and layers that are in there. And, often that outer layer is just the beginning. So again, I just am really excited to share this information, and with that, knowing that you're helping women learn about trauma and how it affects them. And I share that passion too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it is a complex and layering and of like the emotions and how all the hormones, and I mean, there's so many things that, I think once you start realizing that if you've not had that in your kind of wheelhouse or knowledge, but you've been having more of the shame or the fear of some of those things that we have in life of what the body does for a woman, and from the time you start being a child and the hormones and all the way through in childbirth, or there's so many things that seem like have been kind of neglected or under the rug, so women have this hard time, and then we're living longer. So yeah, it shouldn't have to, the quality of life should be able to be there through the whole time on several layers, both your intimacy and what that does, but also your regular bodily functions, which I think many people and many women, being the good girl and all that you may not have, no one talked about, or so you feel that shame. So, and then if you start having some issue, there's not even an understanding of that. And then adding the layer of trauma, if there's been abuse, or probably even I would say with childbirth, that can be that the body goes through so many changes on that. So I'm sure there's definitely issues or things most women may not always understand or have the knowledge of. So that having you as a support, and that there's many different ways to make things better, so that they're not in that stress or shame. I'm sure has been very helpful for women. So
yeah, I would say, Maria, I really understand for women that the hardest thing to do, the hardest thing to overcome is that first initial reaching out to have the conversation, like picking up the phone and calling to me. I have ads and information out in the community about what my service is, and the hardest part for a woman is to muster the courage to want to change first. But often we're desperate enough that we have that desire to change, but that taking that first step to pick up the phone and say, okay, I have a problem, I need to talk to someone. We know in all the aspects that we deal with trauma, that's probably the biggest step, is that taking that first little action. And I just want women to know that I have worked really hard to create a caring, safe enough environment, and my compassion and my understanding of their situation, because I have been on the other side of that conversation. I have dealt with these issues myself, and I had to muster my own courage to reach out and to find solutions. And once I learned about these solutions and how well they worked for myself, I felt like I couldn't not offer them to other women. Like that's what compels me, is knowing that women are hungry for healing and for better quality of life. Like that, we all want that, and it can be hard to find a good solution. And I really want to say though that, like, the shame that we have in our society to talk about intimate concerns, or even not intimate concerns, just, like admitting you have a problem is, or a concern or an issue or something's bothering you. That, I really want women to understand that I think the shame is not really ours, but we carry it as ours. Like that shame of saying, oh yeah, standing in line at the grocery store with your incontinence pads on the conveyor belts going by and not wanting other people to see it. Like that shame is not ours. It comes from around us, and maybe it's, like you say, childhood messages or environment or where we grew up, or the lack of support or lack of understanding or education, or and I just really hope women can start to stand up and say, you know what, this shame isn't mine. I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to choose me. I'm going to choose my quality of life and my wellness, because you are literally a resource, a caring, compassionate, available, supportive processes for trauma and beyond in life. And knowing that there's organizations like you that are offering this, it's such a powerful process to encourage people to step forward and get past the shame that isn't ours. Like, children who've been in trauma or abuse, they didn't ask for it. They didn't create it. It's, the shame doesn't belong on them either. And that's true for us as adults. And I think we pick up that shame and carry it needlessly, especially when it involves our female functions. Look what's happened to breastfeeding. I was going through an airport the other day and I see this pod thing, right? It looks like I don't know. It looks like a very large phone booth, for those of you who have ever seen a phone booth. and I thought, I get the concept, it's safe and the mom and her baby can go in there and nurse privately. And yet it's like, let's shut that aside. The most human basic need to eat as a baby is now being put in a little closet. It's just, I know we're trying, but
no, you're correct. I mean, there's some of that is yet again, and maybe it's a trying to be helpful, but in the bigger thing, it can add to a woman's shame or feeling uncomfortable, feeling like this is not normal, when like you said, it is the most normal thing. You're feeding a child, you're feeding another being.
But heaven forbid our breasts should show while we're nursing our baby, but look at music videos or internet or TV, right? TV shows, but don't show a mom feeding her baby. You can tell that you're getting me riled up a little bit about some of these aspects that just don't make a lot of sense in the world. And I think women's pelvic wellness it's one of those categories that's just shrouded in mystery and shame. And I've created an event here in Bend, which is going on quarterly now. I'm going to have my third one in January, January 24th, 2023, whenever you listen to this. And I bring together a community of experts to open the conversation about women. It's called the Women's Intimate Health Support Circle. And that literally is like, let's start the conversation. And we've had some very lively conversations at our other events, and women were so hungry to have a place to come and to realize, oh, okay, I'm not abnormal. I'm not the only one. And as we know, trauma tends to isolate people. It tends to create challenges for reaching out and feeling part of community. And so that's why I created these events where women can come and gather and ask their questions and meet other practitioners. And so I'm excited that you're going to be involved in the next event and just helping to continue that conversation and asking, women having a place to ask questions and look for support. That's really key.
Yeah, and well, and we look forward to being part of that.
Yes, we do.
Because like what you were saying earlier, people are not to blame for what happened to them. And so just the acknowledgement that something happened, or, you know, there's something that I'm dealing with that I need help. And for women to know that they're not alone. Millions of women on this planet, I would say, you know, are probably having issues right this minute that you're talking about helping them with. It's not uncommon, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. And I, for one, was really thrilled to hear about what you do, and to do it in such a way that it doesn't involve prescription medication and the Band-Aids that don't traditionally help, other than just treat the symptoms. So, you know, I think what you're doing is really phenomenal, and you'll probably have more phone calls and emails, hopefully, from women who would love to have your help. Was there a time that you can identify that you really said, this is where I want to place my focus? And did it have anything to do with a personal event or events?
Yeah.
For you?
So on my website, I have a little video. So I'm all about doing things myself first before I jokingly say to my patients, well, I'm going to try this first. And if I survive and if it works, then you can try it. I'm willing to try some out of the box things, right? So that's the if I survive piece. Although the things I do really don't have any risk. So I'm just being dramatic to be perfectly transparent. So for myself, my video is about I call it my worst day of urinary incontinence. And I was early menopause, and I was experiencing some of those wonderful, symptoms of change that happen during a time which, by the way, society-wise, like, we really underestimate the glory of menopause. I mean, it's such a powerful phase of a woman's life. And I really love to kind of help women reclaim the power of that, because we're shifting gears. We're no longer thinking of procreating and raising children from our body's perspective, right? And we really get this time to deepen and focus in our lives in a different way. And so as I was going through that transition, I went on a 7-mile hike, 3.5 miles up, and the 3.5 miles downhill in July, in the heat with lots of mosquitoes, I literally started having pee running down my legs. It just would not stop. It just, every step I took, the jarring of my bladder, and I was so miserable. And I thought, I'm not hiking with a pad, because that's just going to cause more chafing and other problems. So that's when I made the decision to find a solution for myself, which led me to regenerative medicine and applying it for women's healthcare needs instead of joints and orthopedic needs. And I am constantly looking for that. What's the most effective? I call it the biggest bang for your buck. What's the most effective thing I can do for this concern that's going to get me the best result? And I found complete resolution of my symptoms in a short period of time. And I thought, I know there's other women who need this. So it's usually from experiencing pain myself. So even, being through some very traumatic and stressful situations in an abusive situation, that has led to my other passion, which we're also going to talk about, is I'm co-authoring a book with a dear friend and partner, a business partner, about trauma and women and we tell our stories and how we got to this place of recreating our lives in an empowered way. And so I bring that process with me as a doctor into the treatment room with my patients. And I am amazed how many times I bring up my story and my situation and share that I was in a toxic, narcissistic, abusive marriage. Women say, "Oh yeah, I was married to one of those too." And then, that opens the conversation and the layers get deeper, and, we can connect then as two human beings talking about a common situation. And often I can help them find other resources. Like, I'm just so excited to have you as resources to send my patients to too. And so it came from a point of personal pain and personal experience that, along with all these years of working with women as pelvic care and women's health care is my background.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Anytime that you can relay a story like that somebody can identify with, that just helps to create a little bit stronger bond that, can help them feel more comfortable and safe. Like
I think
said.
Feeling not alone is so important.
Yeah.
We could go on about all the studies and we just went through COVID and the sheltering in place and the disconnection that happened in society. And well, here we are on a Zoom call, like doing a video, right? I mean, there's benefits and challenges that have come out of this. I've had the great pleasure of meeting you ladies in person too. So I really appreciate that. But the sense of isolation is a real challenge in this society. And anytime we can bridge that gap, and that's what makes that in-person women's intimate health support circle just so rich. And I was so excited after the one we had in June, our nice long summer days. It was like 8:30 and I had packed everything up and I was heading home, and there were still groups of women standing in the parking lot, like chatting and connecting and sharing information. And that's, to me, that is like healing in process, right? Healing in action.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that is total goldness in my book. I mean, I think that's I mean, and from learning my own personal experience and stuff of how, and I think especially for women, I mean, for everyone, but I think women, the connections and, whether it's being in circle or just being in a group or hanging out together, whatever, making those connections. And I think it's even more than just being heard, like, by a professional or anything. I mean, that's very important too, but then having those personal stories of one-on-one, the way to really connect. And there's something in us, I think, that we're even more need those connections, need that bonding time as women. And so, like you said, it is sad to see. I mean, it's been good, but of maybe having our own alone time, but at the same time, there's so many women and people that are truly feel lonely and feel like there's no hope, or they can't say anything and they're stuck at home or wherever, and really isn't, they can reach out there, and there's many people that would be able to support them or know of their situations, have similar situations, and can relate. So it's wonderful that you are putting those circles together, support groups together, and that, like you said, I bet that was nice to see, women hanging out afterwards. They didn't want to, stop. So,
right.
So, yeah.
Well, I think my main message that I'd like to convey with my practice is that, women really can get their quality of life back again. We can live in our bodies and be at peace with our bodies. A lot of times when things happen, we judge and criticize and put ourselves down, internally, that little voice in our head. And just, I really want to help women find their pathway back to feeling alive and vigorous and vital and passionate and feel pleasure in being in their body. And that's, that's my main goal. And it's just helping women take that first step, like that picking up the phone or that reaching out. And they can safely check my website out and get all the details and the technical information, because that's, in some ways, that's almost secondary to me. Really, that first part of really engaging and educating is what's, and that's true with anything we approach, whether it's trauma, health, other aspects of life that we're trying to change. Education is always the first step.
Yeah, it's really, really important. So on that note, we've only got a few more minutes left. Is there anything else you would like to add? And then do you have a title for the book yet? And
the title is still working, so I will have to get back to that.
Okay. So how can people get in touch or learn more about you or the women's circles or?
Yes. Well, my website is probably the best way, which is www.freedomregen, med.com. So freedomregenmed.com. And my website has information about all the medical offerings that I have for incontinence and sexual wellness. And there's also a page on that site for the women's intimate health circles. And you can click on there and you can scroll down and see all the past panelists and the amazing resource. Not nearly as extensive as yours. I'm just starting. So I'm impressed with you guys have really built a community. It's really impressive. But you can find the information, and then there will be a link in how to register for the January 24th event. And it's free. It's for women to come and get free information. So you really have no excuse not to come.
Okay, awesome.
Bring a girlfriend or a sister or someone with you if you need support.
Great. Once this video is completed, we'll get it put up onto the Halen House website under the education tab. So if anyone out there would like to share this with someone that they know and they love, that we encourage you to do that and get more information on taking care of your own health. That would be tremendous.
Also, if they click on if they go to my website, there is a way on there to click on a little calendar, and you can schedule a brief 10 to 15 minute phone call with my staff to get more information and to find out, is this something you're interested in? And then they can schedule an appointment for an inpatient visit with me. So it's really easy. Just call, just pick up the phone.
Okay.
I feel like the public radio station. Just call now. Which, by the way, I am doing an interview for KPOV tomorrow at 9 a.m. So
wonderful.
We're just putting more information out there.
That's great.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your information with us today. I know a lot of women out there will benefit from just hearing it, if not, experiencing the help that you can give them. So thank you so much. Maria, did you have anything to add?
I think that's it, but I do want to send a sincere thanks to you, Carol, for talking to us today, and then for the work that you do and what you're wanting to provide, and your future projects in the book and the support group and just everything, because it's an important topic, and we appreciate your coming on and being part of our group and everything. So And anyone out there listening and watching, please, you are supported, and you can connect with us or others in your community, or there are ways to reach out. So just want to get that out there too. So you're not alone. So, but thank you very much, Carol, for today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.